6 p.m. in Banga and same time right here in the economic capital city of Douala. Good evening, dear televiewers. Thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. A priest and 5 primary school teachers have been shot on their legs by unknown men in Kembong village, that is in the Mayo division, southwest region of Cameroon. The victims are currently responding to treatment. Meantime, the sum of 50 million francs CFA is being demanded by suspected separatist fighters for the liberation of 10 quarterheads who got kidnapped in the same village. And away from that, Cameroon's Minister of Communication, Manuel Sadi, in a communique warns individuals who on televised platforms compare Cameroon and other African countries that are they say African countries that have experienced coups. He says those wishing that the wind of change blows to Cameroon will be arrested and later tried in court. He's calling on all those analyzing these coups to do so with caution or risk facing the wrath of the government. Meantime, details of the entire content of the communique in today's edition of the news. And now we talk sports. The indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon have been eliminated from among the teams to take part in the African Women's Cup of Nations expected to hold in Morocco. They were defeated few hours ago by the Harambee Starlets of Kenya. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. We'll begin with one of our major stories. Civil inhabitants of Kembong village in Iyumojok subdivision in the Mayo division of the southwest region have gone into hiding. This comes after a priest alongside 5 teachers got shot. Meanwhile, 10 quarterheads from the same village in Kembong have been abducted. Smajikan Gabriel talked to barrister Ojong Ashurolan and compiled this report.
In Mayo division lies a reverend father and teacher who were shot Tuesday by unknown gunmen on their legs in Kembong village. The incident occurred days after 10 quarterheads were kidnapped by alleged separatist fighters in Kembong under a Yumojok subdivision. The alleged separatist fighters are demanding 50 million francs CFA for the release of these 10 quarterheads.
We don't know what they want, but they wanted money. They were asking 50 million. But now, where we have such amount of money? These guys were trying to see that school will start because we wanted that school should start. Kembong has been a disturbing village because of lack of leadership. Kembong is ungoverned. The person who the administration choose as the chief is not wanted by the people. That is a fact. You can't give a leader that people don't like.
The people of Kembong village are now looking for ways to free the 10 quarterheads who were kidnapped.
Kembong Cultural Development Associations and some personnel have embarked on negotiation to see to it that they can be released.
The legal mind is now asking the government of Cameroon to take up their responsibilities and bring back peace to the one-time peaceful Kembong village.
The state of Cameroon as a body must come to her help to ensure that Kembong is free. And that problem must start by the state of Cameroon addressing the root cause. What is happening in Kembong? Kembong is not united. The village is at disarray because of lack of leadership.
Kembong village is the biggest within a Yumojok subdivision and will be remembered as one of the villages that hostilities started in 2016 when the crisis began.
I'll be coming back to this attack that occurred in Kembong village in the second part of the news. And on to something else, the Minister of Communication, Manuel Sadi, says those analyzing and hailing military coups in Africa and wishing the wind blows in other nations, including Cameroon, risk being arrested and tried in courts for destabilization of the Republic. Minister Manuel Sadi, in a communique signed on September 25th, calls on citizens to adjust, be confident and trust state institutions as well as their leaders who are responsible for the destiny of Cameroon. Innocent Aze with that report.
In the two-page communique dated September 25, government spokesperson Rene Emmanuel Sadji fumes and strongly condemns growing analysis on media platforms by political analysts as well as others in and out of Cameroon, praising the military takeovers in some African countries and encouraging the steady wind of change to blow across other nations of the continent, including Cameroon. To the Minister of Communication, the government does not welcome any seizure of power via unconstitutional means, reiterating Cameroon is sovereign and a state of law endowed with democratic institutions with well-carved out procedures for accession to power. Anyone who chooses to go the wrong way or funds military coup and making ludicrous predictions about the fate of Cameroon risks arrest and trial before competent courts in accordance with the laws and regulations in force, since that will be tantamount to destabilization of the Republic of Cameroon. To avoid the wrath of the judicial arm of the state, Minister Rene Emmanuel Sadji warns and advises Cameroonians to nurse vigilance and patriotism. He also invites citizens to remain confident and trust the institutions of the Republic of Cameroon, their fatherland, and notwithstanding their leaders who are responsible for driving the nation towards emergence.
6 individuals suspected of selling arms without authorization in Susa, that is in the Mungo division of the Lithra region, are currently in the dragnet of police officials of the Susa Public Security Post. In the course of that operation, at least 342 arms and 17 bullets were seized from the suspect. Mala Glory with the details.
Ewane Tato is a 37-year-old man who has been accused of supplying arms to a group of men and women. These people, on their part, smuggled the arms into the black market, and this has threatened the security situation in the town of Susa as the population complain of numerous attacks.
Meanwhile, those are big victims. The only team are 2 missing last 2 years.
An operation led by the Susa Public Security Police Post led to the arrest of the suspect alongside his other gang members in Dibombari, and 342 ammunition seized. We asked ourselves, how did they get the supply? That was how we got to Ewane, searched his home and seized 342 arms and 17 bullets. After the operation, the delegate of National Security therefore ordered proper investigations to be done in order to arrest all those selling ammunition without an authorization. We had to work together with the anti-criminal unit, where we got to Elf in Douala. That was how we discovered the area where Ewane Tato got his arms.
500 munitions qui ont été vendues au nommé Ewane sortaient de cette armurerie.
The secretary, the security man, and the storekeeper were all arrested. After the arrest of the 6 individuals, security forces say 3 are still on the run. However, the suspects will be presented before the military court in the days ahead for questioning.
Malaglari reporting there. Producers of homemade products are urged to meet up with the international standards of quality in the bid to be competitive. Within the framework of efforts to step up the quality and enhance the visibility of Cameroon-made products, a barcode was presented to the press today in Douala. Babila Jonathan reports.
Capacity of made-in-Cameroon products remains relatively low on the international market. Many of the producers and their products are still lagging behind in matters of quantity, quality, visibility, and product traceability. That is, the ability to identify, track, and trace a product both during production and through distribution as it moves along the supply chain. To conquer the vast market of the Africa Free Trade Zone, a barcode has been made available to boost the credibility, visibility, and competitiveness of made-in-Cameroon products.
The 617 is the code of the country, especially for GS1 Cameroon by GS1 International. So we can very proud of that because there can be some kind of identification for the promotion of the made in Cameroon. And the way we are working now is to give that 617 more confidence. We have 3 issues. First is the quality. The second is the quantity. In international way, we are working with the supermarket. We want to really have the connection with the supermarket.
Entrepreneur Fabrice Eke says, in collaboration with the Norms and Standards Agency, ANO, the Ministry of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, and the Chamber of Commerce, his enterprise and other stakeholders are now pushing for quantitative and qualitative production of made-in-Cameroon products.
Out of Cameroon, precisely in Mali, the junta in power has decided to postpone the presidential elections which were to take place in the month of February 2024 to an unknown date. In Niger, the National Council for Safeguarding of Fatherland, CNSP, sees France's departure out of their territory as a victory. Details of our international stories with Cedric Chakutio.
In Mali, the government of Colonel Goïta announced on September 25th the postponement of the presidential elections scheduled for February 2024. This is a new postponement in relation to the commitments made under pressure from the community of West African ECOWAS countries with a view to a transfer of power. The date initially set for the 4th and 18th of February 2024 for the 2 rounds will be slightly postponed for technical reasons, said government spokesman Colonel Abdoulaye Magui in a statement read to journalists in Bamako. The authorities say among these technical reasons are factors linked to the adoption of 2023 of a new constitution and the revision of the electoral list, but also a dispute with a French company Idemia involved, according to them, in the process at the level of census. For now, the government spokesman Colonel Abdoulaye Maiga said a new date will be announced and the parliamentary polls will be held separately. Over to Niger, Paris ended up deciding the departure of their forces from Niger. For the authorities, this is a historic moment and a new step towards sovereignty. The National Council for the Safeguarding of the Fatherland, CNSP, on their part, published a press release on social networks and made a communiqué on their national TV stations. This communiqué welcomes the decision taken by President Emmanuel Macron and is seen as a victory by Niger.
And now we come back to Cameroon to talk about health news. Statistics from the World Health Organization shows that in Cameroon, maternal mortality rate has increased. One of the reasons advanced is the misuse of contraceptives or the non-use of contraceptives by adolescent girls and women. As the world celebrates World Contraception Day, gynecologists call on women to visit their doctors before the use of any contraceptive method in order to avoid side effects. A.C. Lucy Liangu spoke to Dr. Henry Esome, head of the gynecology service at the Douala-Lakentini Hospital, and compiled the following report.
In Cameroon, unplanned pregnancies have been a major cause of maternal mortality among adolescent girls and young mothers. Most of them who make use of different methods of contraceptives like implants, intrauterine device, combined oral contraceptives, hormonal injectable methods, and condoms, most of the times do without consulting a medic. Despite the availability of a wide range of contraceptives, the use is very low in Cameroon. Prof. Henry Esome, head of the gynecology service at the Lakentini Hospital, says the infrequent use of modern contraceptives method between women of childbearing age has exposed them to unwanted pregnancies.
Et la plupart du temps, c'est pas des rapports protégés.
He explains it is because most of the times young girls engage in unprotected sexual intercourse, which in the long run can lead to infections and subsequently might delay their ability to conceive.
Il y a forcément une inflammation.
The medic advised before the use of contraceptives, women should visit their gynecologists for prescriptions. Why not present themselves to a family planning unit?
On vous étale toutes les méthodes, avantages et inconvénients.
But it will depend on the specialist to prescribe a particular contraceptive to the patient depending on the health status. The misuse of contraceptives by adolescent girls or young mothers can also cause miscarriages and ectopic pregnancies.
Le risque il est là, une grossesse extra-utérine, il est fort à parier que vous finirez au bloc et au bloc. Et très souvent on vous saute.
And now we take this note on sports. The indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon won't be present at the African Women's Cup of Nations in Morocco come 2024. The Lionesses missed the opportunity to qualify this afternoon in Kenya as they lost to the Harambee Starlets after post-match penalty shootout, which is 3-4. On aggregate, after 2 matches, the Lionesses played a 1-1 draw with the Harambee Starlets. Kenya will meet the winner of the match between Gabon versus Botswana in the last phase of the qualifiers in December. That's it for the first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Once more, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for staying with us on Talking Point. Tonight, I will be receiving Barrister Ojong Ashu Roland. He is equally a native of Kembong village. Good evening to you, Barrister. It is a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight. As we just heard in the report done by Smart Jikan Gabriel, at least 5 people have been shot on the leg and 10 quarterheads kidnapped by unknown men in Kembong village in the southwest region. Can you explain to us the circumstances that led to the kidnap of these persons?
Good evening, Madam Immaculate. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Well, I am from Kembong village. Kembong is situated in the Umojok subdivision, Manu division, southwest region of Republic of Cameroon. And it's one of the biggest village in Manu division as a whole, with almost 17 or 16 quarters. But unfortunately, the development of my village has been on a loophole because of chieftaincy and leadership struggle over 20 years today. And a lot is happening. Like now, we just got information that a group of separate fighters arrested some of our village personnel who were struggling to see that school starts. And they are still under captives, more than 10 of them. 2 were shot in their legs, and they are demanding a ransom of 50 million. What I can say, we have been struggling to see how we can get them released.
So, Barrister, what do you think must have triggered the kidnap of these quarterheads in Kembong village?
Well, to say the least, Kembong is having a big problem. Kembong is a village that has been ruled severally by several leaders. But in 2010, the government installed a chief under the term of royalty. To the people of Kembong, it was an abomination. And if to say the least, he was installed under heavy military control, meaning that military were deployed to make sure that he is forcefully enthroned as the chief of Kembong. And 95% of the people of Kembong were not in support of that chief. I, for one, from the beginning was in support of that chief. I remember in the past. But after I realized he was not going, a lot of people don't want him. And so the other villages took advantage. And that's why in 2016, when this Amber issue started, they took advantage of Kembong, because from 2010 to 2016, 6 years, Kembong was ungoverned, to say the least, because they don't want the chief. Out of 17 quarters, maybe 1 or 2 quarters support the chief. Out of 100%, 95% support against the chief. Imagine that atmosphere of antagonism, problems, fight among themselves, among the Kembong people. So this division and this problem created a vacuum for any cohesion to stand up to fight any attack. And so these issues happening where separatist fighters take Kembong as their own resting ground. Most of these people are not from Kembong, but they are from small villages out behind. But because they believe that the Kembong themselves are not united, so they come into Kembong to destabilize Kembong. And so it is going on like that over and over.
We are all aware that classes resumed effectively, that is less than a week ago, and that's because of the 2 weeks imposed lockdown by separatist fighters. As a native of Kembong village, tell us, are classes effective in your area despite the security threats?
Well, to say that schools are effectively going on in Kembong, I will not agree with you. There's no school. There are schools going on, but not effectively. Because we have primary school going on somewhere. But schools like the government high school Kembong, the government technical school Kembong is not functioning. And that is what these guys wanted to start this year. I was a prefect in government high school Kembong. And it's my alma mater. But what is happening it's beyond what we can think. Schools are not going on effectively in Kembong. Especially the secondary schools are not, in fact, going on at all. We might say maybe the downer part have primary schools that are going around the Catholics because of the influence of the bishop, the bishop and the father, the Catholic Church, try to see that school should go on effectively. But it's not going on. It's not moving. The majority of the population is up part of the Kembong. There are no schools in that zone. And so these people wanted that school should start this time around, but there was no way. First of all, school cannot be effective because we need the development association needs to work in collaboration with the chief to see that things goes on way. But the development association is not in good terms with the chief because the majority of people of the development associations wanted by another chief or Jongsi to be their chief. But a fraction which is very small wanted by Chief Bate Eno. And so that anarchy could not make things work, and school resumption could not be possible. And I have written to that effect.
Barrister Ojong, earlier on you mentioned some security threats that have marred the peace and stability of Kembong village. We would like to know, is the government aware of all these problems?
Yes, I must say the least. I wrote to the Minister of the Trump administration. I requested for a suspension of the chief on those grounds that maybe they can we can talk about bringing everybody on board for a resolution to this problem. And the government is still, the action is not yet done. I've written to the Prime Minister, I've written to the Presidency, I have informed the stakeholder that this is late Agbotabi's mother's village, late Agbotabi's maternal village, Kembong. And Agbotabi in his reign, heck sure Kembong was the best. I'm sure in his grave, he feels bad that Kembong is the way it is today because he wanted the best for the village Kembong. But I have written to authorities, I have pleaded with them to come to the help. The documents are still pending. And I've said that the solution to this problem, I must recall the fact that in 1984, one chief was installed, the same chief, this chief was installed in Kembong as a royal chief. That year there was a bloodshed. In 1985, that man was dismissed. Kembong now stayed for 10 years without a chief before we have another chief. So this problem that happened in 2010 by installing that chief under royalty is an issue that has happened in 1984 and was corrected by a prime ministerial decree. We were see on the film that if this thing happened in 1984 and it was corrected by a prime ministerial decree by removing a chief, why the same error that was committed by the SU will not be corrected? So I'm pleading with authorities that we want peace in the village, so that these people coming to use our village to become a refuge ground for them to commit atrocities will not be able to. Our village is one for the ruling party and behind the government of this country to make sure this country go ahead. We are in support of the government, but let the government give us, the people, the power to manage the activities.
And what are some of the expectations of the population of Kembong village, especially now that the area is marked by rising insecurity?
It is like Lord Justice Kadoji once said, danger invite rescue. The cry of distressed Kembong people is a sermon to relief. Kembong people are in need. They are crying to the government. Government, come to our help. You don't need to give us a chief. You don't need to force a chief on us. We will tell you who our chief will be. And that is what we the Kembong people are pleading. Government, come to the help. Lest there should be a serious consultation talk to know and decide the state of the village. Because it's not just making somebody a chief and he cannot rule people and nobody hears him. It is ways of the government cannot come talk with us. We are willing and able to work with the government and join hands with the government to force those holders, those guys who are disturbing the peace and stability of our village. So we are begging on the government to make hay while the sun shines. That Kembong is crying. The Kembong people are crying every day that please, you can't force a chief on us. Let us decide who will rule us as a people, and we will work with you, the government, very well to see that peace is in our village. That's just what I can say. So I don't have much to say. But Kembong people are peace-loving people. They love the village. They love this country. That is why I told them categorically they should remain calm. All this while they have been saying that we don't want it. I say calm. We will follow it administratively. I've written to the power that be. I've given my reasons, and I know His Excellency Atanganji and the Excellency, the President, the Prime Minister, who all have received my documents. Even the Secretary General of State, Secretary of General, the Presidency, they have received my documents. I have explained to them, I have repeatedly cried that Kembong needs, even if they're still going to keep the same chief, but then they force the chief to have peace with his people. Let peace be in the village. Like what is happening now. The chief is supposed to be the one to say, this is what has happened to my people, what do we do? But you see, I don't know whether we can have a solution under that rule, except we can come together as peace and make Kembong great once and for all.
Barrister Ojong Ashu Roland, a native of Ojong village or Kembong village, thank you so much for participating on Talking Point today. And that's what put an end to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe TV. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Have a wonderful night in the company of more interesting programs on Equinoxe TV. Equinoxe is up next.